Welcome to your community of fee-for-service financial advisors who are successfully building profitable firms that serve the next generation of clients. You'll learn from innovative advisors whose unique stories will inspire you to dream big and take action on your goals. Are you ready to live your great life and help clients live theirs? Then you're in the right place.
Hello and welcome to this episode of XYPN Radio. I'm your host, Alan Moore, and today I'm excited to welcome XYPN member Chad Holmes, founder of Formula Wealth, on the show. Chad always knew he would be an entrepreneur and discovered financial planning in high school when his grandparents let him sit in on a meeting with their financial advisor. He started his career in public accounting as an auditor, thinking it would help prepare him to be an advisor because accounting and finance were basically the same thing, right? Which he said he now regrets since it's way different than financial planning, before ending up at an RIA actually doing financial planning. An unexpected pregnancy and his wife getting a fellowship across the country led him to decide to launch his own firm. This is in 2020, in the middle of COVID, in a new state, and he shared how they made it work as a family for him to be able to pursue his dream of entrepreneurship while also supporting his wife's career. Now he works part-time and has taken on the household responsibilities and is building a great firm focused on helping clients that have historically been underserved by our industry. Okay, without further ado, here is my interview with Chad. Thanks for being a listener of XYPN Radio. We want to hear from you about what you want to hear from us. What types of guests do you want to learn from next? What topics or pain points are you craving insights on? Go to xyplanningnetwork.com/radio survey to fill out a short survey telling us what and who you want to hear from on XYPN Radio. That's xyplanningnetwork.com/radio survey. Hey, Chad, welcome to the show, man. Thanks so much for being on.
Thanks for having me, Alan.
So let's give listeners a little bit of an overview of your firm, just so they know who we're talking to. And let's get off sort of where are you located, if the accent doesn't give it away for folks.
I am down here in Montgomery, Alabama. I'm a one-man shop here, Formula Wealth, and I am unique in that I work part-time. I'm taking care of my 2-year-old daughter when she's not in daycare, and my wife is the lovely breadwinner of the family, so I get to, enjoy the beauty and terrors of entrepreneurship and fatherhood at the same time. It's a lot of fun. I got about 16 current clients right now, and I'm about at capacity at that level right now. But with a kiddo kicking up, going to 5 days a week starting next month to daycare, we'll see if that capacity increases.
All right. Very cool. Do you have sort of a target market or a type of client that you've seen success in serving?
I wish I had a specific niche. I listen to the podcast a lot and understand the beauty and simplicity and advertising and all that comes with having a specific niche. But the truth is, early on, a lot of folks, you just kind of accept whoever you can get. And if I were to put an avatar to it, it's an American family, citizens here that, income north of $150,000, $200,000. Savings could be none, or it could be a couple $1 million. Some of them are business owners, physicians, accountants. Some of them are just young professionals working and wanting to learn more about their own finances from a different perspective, and somebody who's been educated in that world.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Yeah. And you're also in an area of the country, having been born in Tuscaloosa myself, you're in an area of the country. It's not like there's 1,000 fee-only planners within a few miles. Like there is the reality that while Zoom and the internet have certainly changed us a bit, geography still does play a part. Are the majority of your clients local?
Actually, no, we moved to Alabama less than a year ago. And so I currently have 0 Alabama clients. I'm kind of all over the country. I've had people from Washington to Florida, literally. And so I'd say a bulk is from Tennessee, just because that's where I'm from. And people that knew me, and then they referred their friends and family and things like that. So I have a concentration in Tennessee, but otherwise I do have quite a range of folks that I either have served or I'm currently serving.
Okay. Very interesting. All right. Let's talk more about that here in a bit. Okay. So let's just talk a little bit about sort of your background and ultimately how you got into financial planning and then ultimately launching a firm. Was this your career out of college?
It was not. So I, growing up, kind of had the hankering for becoming an entrepreneur, business owner. I didn't know what all that would entail. I didn't know if it would be, store owner or inventor of a product or whatever. I had no idea, but the idea of kind of, being my own boss is always alluring to me. And so I go to school, get my degree in finance and accounting. And while I was in college, I was visiting my grandparents' house back home. And their financial advisor was actually at their house. My grandfather was handicapped, and so he came out to their house, and they let me listen in because I knew I was interested. And I was very amazed with, this level of service, him coming out there. I thought, wow, that's really nice, and what a cool career. And so I decided, I think I want to go into financial planning. And I didn't know much at all about it. But one thing I did know is that people did not want to listen to a 22-year-old, or at least I thought that, give them advice on what to do with their investments and retirement and things like that. So both my parents were CPAs, and I always loved accounting. And I was like, you know what, let me just go into a respectful field for a while, maybe get some experience under my belt, and what I thought was a related field. So I chose to get my master's in accounting and go the CPA route, and worked at a big four firm for a while in the audit
it's
side.
Exactly like financial planning, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, ironically, when I was I'd planned to stay in accounting for maybe 10 years, and I made it 4. And I was like, okay, I'm done. This is enough busy seasons for me. So I was lucky enough to make the switch when we moved to Texas. There's a financial planning firm there that was part of a larger CPA firm. And I made the switch over there. I'm like, I'm in accounting. I'm going to go into finance. It's basically the same thing. I took Dave Ramsey in high school. I know all of it. It's fine. I just got to get in there and learn a little bit, and I'll be good to go. Of course, the arrogance there just abounds.
Of course.
I could not have felt more ignorant on my first few weeks and months there. I was so frustrated too, because I was used to knowing a lot. And then now I'm here in this new world, and there was no overlap at all between accounting and finance, or hardly any. So I fortunately was blessed enough to join that team in Texas. And they really focused on education and learning and doing the right thing for the clients, and just taught me the greatest things about this career. And I really, really loved being with that team. Just a truly special bunch.
Awesome. Yeah, it is a good point that so many, in the end, if you get your degree in accounting, like so many folks end up in the Big Four, which is sort of 4 years in, you're going to know if you're a lifer on that side, right, or if you're going to go a different direction, which I'm jealous that accounting has that from a career building perspective. I'm looking forward to the day that financial planning has the Big Four or the Big 10, I'm assuming is what it used to be, like just to be able to do the training and build the career paths and set those expectations, basically provide guaranteed jobs for kids coming out of college, so that we know, that they're not like fighting for these jobs at a solo RIA type thing. But I never worked in corporate accounting, but my understanding, or public accounting, but I understand it wears on you. So it does not surprise me to hear someone make the move over. So you come out of audit, you work at that firm for a while. It sounds like your now wife was in probably medical school residency fellowship during some of this time, right?
Mm-hmm. So I, the truth of the matter is we thought we were going to stay in Texas for a really long time. I was I had already made manager, was in charge of, maybe 60 million of the firm's AUM. It was a small group, and maybe only, between less than 10 advisors. And I was, in the top half of that with as far as experience goes. So a lot of people came in after me. So we were growing a lot, and it was fun. And I thought I'd stay there, make partner, just do all that. And my wife matched her fellowship program up in Ohio in 2019. She matched September 19. I'm like, okay, you know what? You go up there in Ohio for a year. I'll stay back here. We've done distance before, not a problem. This is going to be super simple. And, we could not have been more wrong about the next year that was going to happen. We're talking about the end of 19 right now.
Yep.
So plan was I stay back, and then sure enough, we find out we're pregnant the next month, October of 19. And I cannot let my wife go up to Ohio without me with the baby. And she's certainly not going to let the baby stay back with me. So everything changed. I was terrified to tell my boss that, hey, you know, I'm going to have to leave. And thank you so much for the opportunity, kind of thing. And I didn't want to leave them high and dry with like a 2 or 3 week notice. So I actually gave my notice in December to leave in June. So I gave the team 6 months notice. And one of my friends was like, see if you can work virtually, like just work, you know, you can do that. It's like, well, advisors don't work virtually. That's not a thing. And so, of course, a few months later, COVID hits and everyone's at home, and I'm trying to transition my book to the other associate advisors I had. And then my wife's residency program shuts down because they were being malicious with the hours they were working those kids. And so, you know, I think they're capped at working 80 hours a week, and her average week was like 100 hours. And so she got great experience, but they had to shut that down right before she graduated a 5-year surgery program. And then so she has to scramble, find out where to move to. She goes to Houston, Texas. I'm in Fort Worth, about 4 hours apart. And she's 6-7 months pregnant. I'm wrapping up, trying to start a new business. We're washing groceries because COVID is scary. We don't know what's happening. All that stuff's going on. We're supposed to find a place in Ohio, right? Well, we can't fly up there because COVID shut everything down. So we have to rent a place unseen. We have to sell our house. And then selling the house, it's one of those, well, we don't want people to come in our house because of COVID. So we had to figure out how to deal with that. And fortunately, this was when the housing market was kicking up big time, right at the beginning of that. And we sold it within the first weekend for well over asking, which was unheard of, I thought, at the time. And anyway, so we make it through all that craziness. My daughter is born 10 days early on the day I leave my job. We'd planned for me to leave June 5th. I'm in the parking garage June 5th afternoon telling my friends bye. My wife calls me, says, hey, it's time to go to the hospital. Unbelievable timing. I wish I could say it was due to my great planning, but that has nothing to do with it.
Well, in June timeframe, I mean, that we had a baby in January of 21, and it felt like it was still then, but like June, like the hospitals were still locked down. Like it was like dads weren't allowed in delivery rooms sometimes, and like it was. I
was terrified.
That's a crazy time to be having a kiddo. Just where the world was at that time, and we just didn't know.
Fortunately, I was able to go into the delivery room, but there were states at the time that were not allowing that. And we were terrified Texas was going to do that. Fortunately, I was there and everything was amazing. So then we, pack up the house and move across the country with a newborn, which is easy, just like you think it is. And
they just sleep.
Yeah, right. That's all they do. And so meanwhile, that spring, I was going down to Houston to visit my wife on the weekends. And actually I stayed down there for several weeks because we were working from home at the time. And so who cared? So I'd stay at her apartment and I'd work during the day at my actual job. And then she was working late and she was working weekends. So nights and weekends, I'd kind of start going through compliance stuff and reaching out to XYPN. Hey, how do I do this? I'm ready to start a firm. And reaching out with somebody to help build a website and all that stuff. So I was taking care of that nights and weekends. And then the fun began after all this craziness. We get up to Ohio and there's, we don't do daycare because COVID's still crazy. And so it's me and the baby all day, every day. And during naps, I start working on the business. And it wasn't until October that I was actually ready to, announce to the world, hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's my website. Let me know if you need some financial help.
Okay. So it took about, over 4 months then from when baby came till you felt that you were ready to launch, which is
exactly.
That's not a super long time. I mean, that's not atypical, but for, when you only get 30, 45 minutes, depending on if your kiddo slept better than mine, maybe more, but you get sort of these like unpredictable time blocks to be able to work, but it's amazing what you can get done when you're motivated and only have 30 minutes. So.
Yeah. And actually my wife and I came up with a system 3 nights a week. I would work from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. and I would just that's a 5-hour stretch. I can get a lot done if I'm motivated. And I always was. So I would hit it hard for 5 hours, 3 nights a week. And then the rest of the week, just work during nap time. And that was really the only thing that would work, because otherwise, getting started and then having to stop, like you said, 30 minutes to an hour, it's very disrupting. And it was just a unique schedule that really worked for me. And it was really, really fun experience, honestly. Just being a night owl and kind of doing all that. We were locked in the house anyway. But the perfect time to do this, when you can't go out, you don't know the neighbors, you don't have friends up there, you haven't met anybody. It's just, right. Hey, head down and work. And it was, timing was incredible.
Let me tell you, 9 p.m. to 2 a.m., nothing about that sounds fun to me, but I'm also not a night owl. So this was during the launch process, or this was like once you launched, that was part of your working hours?
I think it didn't really start until once I launched, because It happened. There just wasn't a ton to do. There was a lot of waiting in the beginning, waiting on things to be approved and the website to be built. And so it must have been once I launched and actually had some prospects and clients coming over, that I had all this work that I needed to do to serve them. And, I was getting behind and a little frustrated. And that's when my wife and I finally agreed, hey, we got to do something here.
I'm curious about this from your wife's perspective. If you can share just what she has told you, which is, you mentioned she's the breadwinner. She's making great money. You are unnecessarily launching a financial planning firm with a newborn. And, she very easily could have said like, no, like, because she's busy coming home, like covering 9 to 2. That's probably not what she wants to be doing with her free time. So like, how did y'all navigate that conversation around just like, why do this if it wasn't required financially at this stage?
I don't think that question ever even came up. My wife is just such a pure supporter of mine that when it came up, that's my dream. She, grabbed her pom-poms and said, let's go. Let's figure out how we can do that. It's because she's achieving her dream. She wants me to chase mine. So we never even had the question of, should I do it? It was, I was so happy down in Texas that I knew in Ohio, no one was going to hire me. 1, because of COVID. 2, we were only there for a year. 3, she wasn't in fellowship. They're not making much money at all either. So we did have a need for some income at the time. The only way we were able to make it was because we sold our house and we lived off that equity. We had about $100,000 in equity in the house after living there for 5 years, just because the market had gone up. Right. So that basically replaced my income, and we lived, within our means that year, and we made it work. But yeah, no, the only time my wife has spoken up, put her foot down, was once the 9 to 2 a.m. Had been going on for maybe 6 months or so, and the baby was sleeping better and longer naps. She said, all right, it's time for you to stop that. We need to, enjoy evenings together and watch, all that stuff. So so I eventually did stop that. But the baby was taking much longer naps at the time. And they do, so it served its purpose
at some point.
Right.
Yeah. Early days, not so much, but yeah, I mean, that sounds like a crazy year, quite frankly, just with a baby and a new business in a new city, and fellowships. Those are not, it's not a part-time job. That's super intense. Obviously it seems like it has worked out, but yeah, I guess any takeaways or learnings from that year that you could share with folks who are listening in and maybe in a similar situation or approaching that same situation?
One interesting thing that I did not foresee was I kind of made the offer of, hey, I'll meet with my clients and prospects nights and weekends. That I didn't trust the baby's sleep schedule to schedule anything during the day. And so, between roughly 6 p.m. and I'd even listed on my site as, 10 or 11 Eastern, because I had some folks out in West Coast. And so that wasn't unheard of for them to meet with me at 10 o'clock at night. It was not a problem for them, because that was, 6 or 7 for them. So I made this offering because it was good for me. And then it turns out everybody's like, oh, we love that we don't have to skip work to meet with our financial advisor. So I met with them nights and weekends, and I thought I was just doing it for me, but it turns out everybody's really enjoyed it. And for now, I'll probably keep doing that, because even daycare is not reliable with these kids. They're just germ monsters, and yes, who knows what days my kid's going to come home like, oh, we can't go to school today. So I'm still doing the nights and the weekends. But my wife has put me through many years of being gone nights and weekends for her job. So I think she understands it's my turn to do that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, how is it, and any thoughts in your experience, with a wife that's the breadwinner that is atypical in our culture? And so do you get, I guess, has that been a challenge for you, sort of taking on lead household duties, lead parent, while also like trying to build this business? Like, has that been a challenge, or is that something that you've enjoyed, or both?
I have truly enjoyed it. There's a lot of hats that I wear around the house, and it is atypical in our culture. The reason I'm able to enjoy it so much is someone put it in perspective for me years ago, and it was a similar situation. And they said, it's never the husband's income versus the wife's income or your partner's, whatever. It's our income versus the world, or versus the things we want to do. It's not me versus her. It's us versus everything else. And together we're able to we've never once said, I'm making more money. I make the decision. I mean, while she was in residency, I was making a lot more than her. So, and we never flipped the script like that. So it's just been, you do your job, I do mine. And together we have this joint AGI and go from there.
I like that. I like that framing. Okay. So you mentioned that you have clients all over. I mean, you moved to Ohio basically to start a business, and are locked in your house. So it doesn't sound like you had clients transitioning over with you from your prior firm. And so, like, how did you get those early clients? Like, how did you get some momentum out of the gate?
So I'll address a couple points there. One is, when I left my old RIA, one thing I never wanted to do was take any clients with me. They were always the firm's clients, and I was just lead advisor. And I owe my whole career to that crew. And so I never even considered trying to take clients. Only people I took were my parents, who had put some money with that RIA. And then I asked my boss, said, hey, I'm leaving. And eventually I told him, hey, I'm starting my own RIA. Can you hold on to my parents' accounts here? And we weren't charging them at the time. And I said, can you hold on to these accounts until I get my custodian set up and everything? And he's like, absolutely. And so they held on to my parents' accounts graciously until I think it was August or September, when I finally had my custodian relationship set up at Schwab, and then we moved everything over. So how did I find clients?
Yeah.
I initially started out making about weekly videos on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, whatever, put them on our website. It was about a 2-minute video, educational, kind of a finance 101 type situation, where what's a stock, what's a bond, what's market volatility, how do you react in certain situations, and the beauty of long-term investing, things like that. And I had planned to do a video every week forever. I mean, I love making videos and editing them, and they're kind of silly. There's some jokes in there. There's a little bit of entertainment, but there's also the educational value. I enjoyed doing that, and I have this whole list that every time I think of a complex problem, I'm like, oh, I'll make a video of that, and I put it in my Excel sheet of just these long lists of things that I want to educate the world on for free. And I got through. I think my website launched October 2nd of 2020. And I did a Halloween post on the 31st. And I haven't made a video since then, because prospects just start coming out saying, hey, and so of course it started off friends and family that were on Facebook. And then a few folks would you say, hey, I referred you to somebody. And sometimes that works out. Sometimes you never hear from them. But eventually it started growing, and I kept thinking, all right, well, I'll get back into the videos soon, whenever these prospects slow down. And they just never slowed down. I've been at a steady pace of 1 to 3 prospects every month, which is about all I can handle, given my part-time work. And, it's been really fun. Some people have found me from the XY Planning Network Find an Advisor page. I was quoted in the Wall Street Journal twice over the last year, and I've had several clients from that. And then somebody found me on Google, and then they referred me to their friends. And it's a wide range, but so far the bulk, I would say, has been just my personal network. People just knew I had a reputation of someone that's trustworthy and educated. and they chose to put their faith in me, it's just the biggest compliment out there.
It is. That's incredible. That because they say it takes something like 3 years before a client will refer you to one of their friends and family. You definitely shortcutted that, and like, I don't know, maybe you're just making it sound easier than it was, but it sounds very much like if you build it, they will come type marketing model that, getting listed on the websites like XYPN, NAPFA, whatever else is out there, Google, just really help drive clients. Like, was it really that easy to sort of build that lead flow? Because it seems like that's a lot of prospects coming in the door.
I have not posted online. I have not done marketing other than reaching out to Wall Street Journal to offer to be quoted. People are just out there. So many people out. That's the abundance nature we talk about sometimes. There's a lot of people that need help. And one thing that I'm doing differently that some folks are doing, but the majority out there require, you become a client, you're a client for life. And that's wonderful. And I hope everybody can find that relationship if they can afford it. But a lot of young professionals cannot afford paying for advice for a life. And sometimes I can, and that's great. And if you lower the price enough, that's good. But I decided that I would offer kind of a jumpstart 3-month period. And we hit it hard for 3 months. I do a lot of work in that short period of time. I charge a premium for that jumpstart period. We go over insurance, estate documents, investments, 401k allocation, all that stuff, budgeting, cash flow, credit card debt, mortgage, and then ultimately build out the right capital financial plan. And then at the end of the 3-month period, it's not this, hey, we're firing you, or, we're leaving. I frame it the whole time. It's, you get to graduate from Formula Wealth, and it's a high five kind of occasion over Zoom. I'm like, I hope you guys are walking away feeling, you've got peace of mind and confidence. You're going in the right direction. Call me in a few years when life changes, and let's do this again. And people have really enjoyed that. Some people choose to stay on. And what happens when they stay on is that premium jumpstart fee drops basically in half. And if they have assets they want me to manage, that's a separate, I do 50 basis points for AUM. But that planning fee just drops in half after the hit it hard 3-month period. And then we'll meet twice a year, 3 times a year ongoing from there. But you're more or less financing that annual relationship just on a monthly basis.
How much is the jumpstart fee now?
There's 4 tiers, and it ranges from $400 a month to $700 a month.
So if that's over 3 months, it's basically $1,200 to $2,100.
Yes.
Okay. And so would you consider, that's really getting through sort of the delivery of a comprehensive financial plan at that point?
Mm-hmm. And I started doing this off at 6 months because I thought that's how long it would take. And then for my early clients, I was getting to month 4 and 5, and I'm building the agenda for the meeting. And I'm like, what are we going to talk about? Like, we've covered everything already. Yeah. And so I actually called some clients. I'm like, hey, I know you signed a contract for 6 months minimum, but I think you're good to go. What questions do you have for me? And they're like, oh, we kind of covered everything. I'm like, okay, I don't mind ending this early if you want to stop paying me. And they're like, we don't mind keep paying. I'm like, no, let's just end it. I want to be, the honest person for you. And that's the beauty of not being the breadwinner. My family's not relying on me, earning all this. I get to really be the business owner I always wanted to be. And, it's not about the money as much. There's certainly obvious aspects that require payment, but if I lose out on a month or 2 from a small client, that's not going to change my life. And it makes them walk away with a smile and willing to talk to anybody about me.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. So they come on board. You have 4 different tiers. What differentiates those tiers from each other?
Essentially life cycle, life stage. So the first one on my website, I say, first tier is typically age 20s and 30s. Second tier is typically age 30s and 40s. Third is 40s and 50s. And the fourth stage is just you're retired. And it actually drops a little bit in there. So it kind of builds up as more complex. And then once you're retired, there's sometimes less planning to do when you're actually retired because we're not. Yeah, we're just in, different phase. So we build up the first 3 phases, and then the 4th tier, it drops a little bit. But if you're, in your 20s and 30s and you're making crazy money, or you have rental properties, or you're a business owner, I might bump you up a tier. So it's kind of subjective. Nobody's had problems with it yet. It's been fairly obvious, like so far. And I don't know, it's working right now. We'll see if we need to change it.
No, that I have your website up, and one, kudos to you for actually putting your fees on your website. That is a pet peeve of mine when I can't figure out what people are charging.
Learn that from you guys. I appreciate all the advice I've learned over the years from XY and the podcast.
Well, thank you. But yeah, I mean, it is, I don't know that I've seen many advisors that have structured it this way, where the services, in the end, the service being delivered is fairly similar, but there's different levels of complexity, obviously, based on sort of life stage. So you're grouping by life stage and what what questions they're going to have, which ultimately is all contained in that plan, which is cool. How many or what percentage of these Jumpstart clients just choose to stay on? You haven't been in business long enough, I don't guess, for people to be returning yet, but have you had, like, how many clients do you have on that annual or that ongoing fee at this point?
I have 9 clients that are ongoing right now.
Okay.
7 are on the Jumpstart. I'd imagine, if I were to guess, most of those are going to be done at the 3-month mark. And again, use that term graduate to make it a positive spin instead of terminate. And then I actually have 2 clients that, former clients that did the Jumpstart, and then they've reached out to me in the last month. They said, hey, some big things have changed. We need to get back together. And I think they might be ready for the more permanent relationship. One of their businesses taken off, and the other one's got something else interesting going on. So anyway, you treat people right, and they'll come back when the time is right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's not dissimilar to really the model that I started with, which was mostly hourly, just because I didn't know there wasn't subscriptions. We didn't know this was a thing yet. Which, with hourly planning, I mean, I was selling $3,000 plans, and then, they would start to come back in. And then I ended up moving to a net worth income based model where we do the upfront plan, then hopefully engage on an ongoing basis. But it is a really good way to establish value, be able to get paid. And I always felt like I was getting paid to market, in a way where I'm like, like, you're going to pay me $3,000. I'm going to show you how much I can help you and how much value I can provide you. And then when we're done, if you don't see ongoing value, then you don't pay, but you already paid me $3,000. And if you do see ongoing value, then you keep paying me. But again, I got paid $3,000 to market to you, which I always felt like was a win. I also think it's worth noting you're probably attracting a little bit different of a client base as well, where you may get more of the, Michael likes to, there's research, I think, from Forrester that he uses that says clients are either delegators, which is what historically we've exclusively served as financial advisors. There's validators, and then there's DIYers. So the DIYers they might pay for an hour of your time. They would never pay your fees. I wonder if and maybe if you can speak to this, like, do you feel like you're getting those validators who are coming in saying, I kind of have a plan. I'm looking for you to help me figure out if I really have the plan, if I'm right, or are you really getting the delegators who, even if they haven't engaged in a long-term plan yet, or the ongoing, like, they're really there listening to you and asking you to tell them what to do?
It's a good mix between delegator and validator. And I actually have one DIY who is just determined, and they're an ongoing client, and they keep, talking about the FIRE movement, which I think is a wonderful thing, but they keep staying on. And I'm like, we're ready to end whenever you are, because we're well past the Jumpstart period, and they keep coming back with questions and things. And it's funny, once you learn what a financial advisor, financial planner can really do for you, it really opens up the world of, oh, wow, this is an ongoing value add. Because I personally see it as a lifetime commitment with people, but I also know that sometimes right now in this weird world I'm working in, where it's part-time, and I just would like some income, that I'm trying to open the doors up to maybe some people that otherwise aren't being served and not within their network anyway.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. What is the plan for the firm post, kiddo's going to start 5 days a week daycare here soon. But as you said, my kids are in daycare 5 days a week, and I think they're at home maybe 1 to 2 days a week, it feels like, with some illness or random germs that they come home with. What is the plan, I guess, for this the next phase, because obviously they're probably age 5, 6, so you hit kindergarten, the world changes again for you as a parent. But what is the plan for the business here once you get a little bit more time? Do you want to keep growing? Do you want to let it sort of be where it's at?
Alan, I know you're a big book reader, so I don't know how many silly movies you watch, but Vince Vaughn in Dodgeball has the quote of, I find it's best not to have goals. That way I'm not disappointed if I don't reach them.
And I said it jokingly. It's not a silly movie. That is real life right there. Yeah.
No. So there are a few things that I am open to. I'm curious about some things I want to chase down. There's, right now with the Jumpstart, it's a lot of work for 3 months. And like you said, the pay is between $1,200 and $2,100. And to be able to do that and make what I was making at my last job, which is ultimately one of my goals, is to, end up back to where it may be eclipsing what I would have been making had I continued climbing that ladder at my last job. That would be a real success for me. But at the pace I'm going and the people I'm working with, it's going to be difficult to get there without working a ton. And I didn't start my own firm so that I could keep working the busy season life that I left so many years ago. So one thing I'm thinking about doing is there's this other designation out there, the chartered or certified private wealth advisor, and the CPWA. And I'm not wanting to get it because of the name recognition, because most people don't know what it is. But it does allow you, it educates you on how to serve higher net worth folks, $5 million or higher. And if I were to pursue this education, I might be able to start making videos someday, educating people on more complex problems, which might draw in a higher net worth folk that can actually pay me, the ongoing relationship. They need the ongoing management and advice, things like that, while I can continue to serve the people I enjoy serving right now, which is the people that are young and have never met with an advisor before. And it's such an exciting time for them to really sit down and think about their lives, sometimes for the first time. And so I can essentially supplement some of the things I'm doing now with a few higher end clients, which I think would be really neat for me as a business owner, to help with income and then help my skill level. So I'm thinking about doing that. Another thing I've always considered doing is I really like working in Excel and taking mass data dumps from just terrible software that just spits stuff out, and getting it organized and pretty. And so it was one of the reasons I named it Formula Wealth. So I thought about one day maybe marketing towards small businesses that they have some software that spits out these terrible reports, and I can just for a flat fee organize it for them, and it won't take me long at all because I love doing that and I'm quick at it. But that's another thing. Will I ever hire somebody else? Right now, it's really simple. I'm certainly open to it. It's kind of scary to think about. Because hiring someone means, there's security risks. And now can I completely trust this person? And what if it doesn't work out? Do I have to fire them? I don't want to fire anybody. That's not fun. I can tell them that, hey, you graduate to your next job or graduate to unemployment, but that's about it. So I don't know. The future, it'll be interesting. I'm inviting myself back on this podcast, by the way, maybe in a few years to see what has changed. Where did I go from here? Maybe 5 years or 10 years. I don't know, but I would like to come back and let's benchmark what this progress potential could be. I don't have a specific plan. When I look at my life in 5-year chunks, it's unrecognizable from where I thought it would be. Yep. And it's almost silly for me to think that I can predict that. So I'm just going to keep doing what I love doing, serving people and growing myself as an advisor and as a business owner, and as a father and husband. So, and as long as I'm still happy, I'll just continue down the road and see where this business that seems to have a life of its own takes me.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I love the point about how the 5-year chunks, because there is this concept that if I ask you sort of where do you want to be in 5 years or 10 years, describe your life. You'll give me some just iteration on your current life. Like kid will be 5 years older, you'll be 5 years older, the business is 5 years older. Like you just sort of, but we envision this like straight trajectory. Whereas if you look back over the last 5 years and ask, well, what all have I accomplished? Like what's changed? I mean, like, holy crap, a lot has changed, in the last 5 years.
Unrecognizable.
Right. And that same amount of change is going to happen over the next 5 years where, and being ready for that, acknowledging that amount of change is coming and just being sure that we're intentional with where do we want that change to happen in our lives and in our business. Cause I think that's really the piece that matters, because anyone who tells you, they know exactly where you're going to be in 5 years, like they're just being arrogant about Michael and I like to say about ourselves, not always right, but never in doubt.
Yes. Yeah. That's my wife's whole, people she works with in the surgeon world. They say that a lot. My college friends always said like, okay, what's the new grand plan? Cause I always had this like clear vision, but it like constantly changed, and so and there shouldn't be any guilt or shade around, not knowing exactly where you want it to end up. I think the biggest thing is like, just don't accidentally build the wrong business, right.
And we generally see it the other way where like, I don't think I've ever heard anybody complain that like, I wish I had hired. Usually it's like, God, I wish I had not hired. It's like staying small is probably the safer bet. It just until you're really sure what you want to do, it's a little bit more nimble, a little bit more flexible. To your point, having employees means you have to cover their salaries. And now all of a sudden you do have revenue expectations that you have to hit and they have to hit and things like that. But the cool thing about this business is that you have the flexibility to make those choices and do what's right for you and your family.
Yeah. My mom has expressed concerns that I'm an extrovert, and she's like, you're just going to work for yourself by yourself. And the way I see it is my colleagues are my clients. We're working together to solve a problem and better lives. And to me, they're part of the business like I am. It's like we're a team that's our object to tackle, and together, they do live their life, and my job is on the different side of it. But I don't feel lonely doing this because I'm meeting with clients regularly and having those discussions, and sometimes peace and quiet after dealing with a 2-year-old is amazing.
Yeah, no, it's totally true. There's nothing more peaceful than just like an afternoon alone. So one thing that you and I were talking about before we started recording the show, and I want to be sure we talk about this, was the experience that you had with the name of your company. So can you tell me about sort of how you came up with the name, and then your experience in sort of rolling the company name out?
So when we found out we were pregnant and it became inevitable that I was going to go down this journey, I just started a list in my phone of names that I thought sounded cool. Anytime I heard a cool word in a movie or on the radio or something, I'd write it down. Like maybe it could be that with the word wealth after it. And it came up with, it ended up after several months of doing this, I put it all in Excel, and I had no idea it was this many, but it was literally 101 names that I had written down. And then I had to go through and, sort, okay, how many of these are already companies? And of course, most of them were, great names out there taken early. And so I'm down to this list of, 20 or 30 names, and, eliminate those that are not my favorite, and then get my family involved. I'm like, okay, between these two names, what's everybody's votes? And we all came down to Formula Wealth. And one of the reasons why Formula Wealth was chosen was, it's actually several reasons. One, the Excel life that I love. I love working in Excel, and there's a lot of formulas in there. Two, I think of Formula One racing, which is high end quality, fast paced racing. And I thought Formula Wealth, Formula One. And then three was, I'm going to be working with a baby in these first few months of the firm, and there's a lot of formula involved. And so it worked on so many different levels that I really liked it. And the website, I actually had to pay money because it was not a free website. I think I paid a little over $1,000 for the website,
to buy that domain.
A lot of money. Yes, to buy the .com. And I don't regret that one bit. I love the name. I love what my marketing team has done. And so anyway, I go through, and the website's available, and that's really all I checked. Well, what it turns out, I wanted to get all these social media handles after I had already, started the business, got the LLC done, formed, all that fun stuff. Turns out the Twitter handle for Formula Wealth was already taken, and it was by some group that hadn't posted since 2015, and it's now 2020 when this was happening. And so I tried to message that person. I'm like, hey, if you're not using this anymore, I'd love to buy it from you or whatever. And I couldn't get through to them. I'm going through Twitter's policies for, name impersonation, whatever, because now I've got the LLC. And of course, Twitter's response of, well, we can't take it from them unless they're violating a trademark. I was like, okay, well, guess what? I'm going to go get the trademark. So I go through, and I'm clearly not a lawyer, but I go and figure out how to get a trademark. And my application is denied because there's companies like Wealth Formula Banking and Wealth Formula something else, and so it was too similar to those. And so then I have to decide, do I want to continue this fight? And of course I did. So I have to then write my argument and do a bunch of research on how do you argue trademarks and things like that. And this is all eating into the time when I should just be working on the business, but right. I kind of enjoyed it, if I'm being honest. Well, I eventually get my first challenge to it. They accepted, and forever later, there's the process is ridiculous how long it takes, because there has to be this open period where anybody can challenge it and all this stuff. And I'm just hoping that nobody does. And sure enough, I finally get the trademark. So then I reach back out to Twitter. I'm like, hey, guess what? They need to take this name down. And so they finally did. And I got the name. And I don't think there was a problem. I think that person just didn't use it anymore. I mean, like I said, they hadn't posted in 5 years, so it wasn't a major issue. But so that was an interesting experience, but I really like you can see here, I got my branding everywhere. I've got Turvis cups made, Formula Wealth on there. I send those out, a pair out to every new client. So I think, what's a nice gift for advertising, and, you can do pins or magnets, things, hats, and some of that can get thrown away or lost, but people don't lose Turvis cups. They're indestructible. They last forever. It's true. Dishwasher safe. And and you get them out when people are over at your house that, intimately. And so that maybe that's a way for the conversation to come up. That was actually my wife's idea, was to do the Turvis tumblers.
Yeah, I have. If you watch the video, you'll see my Nalgene is a Robust Wealth Nalgene, which Robust Wealth hasn't been around for a long time, or for a couple of years now. After they got bought by Principal and then and all that, but I've had this Nalgene for I don't know, 5 years, 6 years, and it's in the just have it in my backpack. I always carry it around. So yeah, it's funny. It's not even a company anymore. It's a product that Principal owns, but good memories. They live forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess what just as we're going to be coming to a close here soon, anything else sort of top of mind, anything else that you're working on that I want to be able to share with listeners that as you're sort of in the midst of early years and working part-time and building out this business?
I think sometimes it's helpful. Well, since we're in the realm of entertainment, sometimes with this podcast, let me tell a quick story of the first XY Planning Network prospect that I got. They'd reached out to me and scheduled a meeting, and it was 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and my wife and I had ordered Mexican food from this great place around the corner, and I got fish tacos, which, as I'm saying this out loud, it's like, why would you do that before a meeting? And sure enough, I get terrible food poisoning, and
oh no,
we are minutes away from this client, from this prospect meeting, and I'm white in the face. I'm soaking wet. I mean, I'm getting my phone out to type, I need to postpone or delay. I don't know if this is going to be a big client or a small client. I'm just I'm so sorry. I'm start typing it up. I finally catch my breath. I'm like, I think it's past. Get a blow dryer and just dry my hair so it's not drenched anymore, and get a little color back in my face. I go and do the meeting, and have a wonderful first interaction with them, and they ended up becoming one of my biggest ongoing clients. And
that's amazing.
I almost canceled the meeting, but I ended up going through with it, and I'm so glad I did because they're wonderful people and very successful in life, and so they're fun to have. But I think sometimes it's also helpful for people to know, especially if you're considering starting your own business. I'm talking about, hey, I'm making some money, but not a lot. I wouldn't mind throwing some figures out there just so people can get an idea. So in 2020, I didn't really start till October. My revenue that year was just $4,000 when that was with $18,000 of expenses. So it took me about 18 grand to get started. 2021 was my first full calendar year, and I had 41,000 in gross revenue. My expenses dropped to about 14,000. So, I thought I was really proud of that because it was less than a year from when I left my previous firm that I broke even. It was in May of 21. So just shy of 1 year, and I broke even on that first year's expenses. So I was super excited about that.
Yeah, that's higher than I would say average for XYPN firms per our benchmarking data. So,
well, I was proud of it, and I'm still moving at a similar pace this year. Nothing crazy. I'm kind of. I think at first time I'm at capacity. I'm going to start telling people no here soon. I keep telling myself that I'm going to tell people no. It hasn't happened yet, but I need to get back and focus on the business some and slow things down and reevaluate my processes. But this year, maybe continue on the current path, maybe in the mid 50s, revenue and expenses kicked up. I did a few other things this year, marketing wise, but 18,000 for my expenses in 2022 is my expectation. So it's growing, healthy pace, I think, for working part-time. I'm really, really happy doing it. And it's nice to have a partner like XYPN I turn to you guys for compliance questions all the time. And it's just because compliance is not, where my passion is. I love serving the people and working with them and getting involved in that nature. But the red tape it's something that needs to happen because it needs to keep people safe, but it's not where my loyalty lies and where my passion and my time needs to go. So it's just really nice to have a partner to help with all that.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, this is our passion is we just love working with advisors and supporting the work that, our advisors do. We say our mission is to help people live their great lives. And there's three people inside that definition of people. One are the clients, which is really where we started, was we want to bring real financial planning to a generation and a group that just has never had access to fiduciary financial planning before. The second group that we've just come to appreciate, but I can't say we started out this way, was the membership. And just, we knew we were supporting members, but I didn't know how much of their great lives we were going to be helping to enable through entrepreneurship. And again, the number of stories I hear about folks who started firms during COVID because they wanted to have a family or because they had started a family and end up in these situations, like, that's huge. And then the third group is our own team. And we spend a lot of time, effort, money, energy, being sure that we're taking care of our team, because in the end, they're the ones who actually do all the work and supporting advisors. But no, I appreciate you sharing that. Well, awesome, Chad. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show, share your journey. I'll ask you the final question before we close out. And that is, if there's one tip, one piece of advice you could go back and give your younger self that you think listeners would benefit from, what do you think that piece of advice would be?
Time travel. When to buy and sell Bitcoin would be nice.
I know,
advice.
Right?
A few things. I wish I had done tax instead of audit. I think that'd be so much more relevant in my accounting days to bring over to this field. Make sure you check your social media handles before getting your name would save some time. And one hang up I had in the beginning before I really got started in this career was working with family and friends and people I knew. I kind of had this rule internally that I would never want to cross that boundary, just to blur the lines of that. It sounded messy. What if the market turns, all that stuff. I didn't want to be on that side of the relationship. And that was before I really got into learning what financial planning is. And once I finally got a grasp of this career and knew what I was doing, it hit me one day that I have to be the person that serves the family and friends, because I trust me more than anybody else. I know my limitations, but I know that I'm going to do right by them. I know that I'm going to protect them from the scary, volatile markets and things like that, and treat them the best way I know how. And so it's this perspective change of, you may be afraid to work with certain people, but if you know that if you're going to do right by them, then you're doing them a disservice by not working with those people. And so that was one big, perspective shift that I had that was unexpected from the beginning.
That's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. I also worked with some family, and did a lot of helped some folks that would not have been able to get access to financial planning otherwise. So, all right, Chad, thank you again so much for taking time to come on the show. I appreciate. I really do appreciate your time and energy.
Thanks, Alan, and everybody else at XY. Look forward to seeing you guys in October.
Absolutely. Thanks for being a listener of XYPN Radio. We want to hear from you about what you want to hear from us. What types of guests do you want to learn from next? What topics or pain points are you craving insights on? Go to xyplanningnetwork.com/radio survey to fill out a short survey telling us what and who you want to hear from on XYPN Radio. That's xyplanningnetwork.com/radio survey. Also, be sure to go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP to join our private Facebook group for fee-for-service advisors. It's the community you've been looking for that's there to provide support no matter where you are in your journey. Best of all, it's free. Again, that's xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP.
Thanks for listening to XYPN Radio. If you enjoyed the show, please be sure to leave a review that will help grow the movement of fee-for-service advisors, serving next-gen clients and building the firms of their dreams. That's all for today's episode. Until next time.